Go ahead, Mani.
Hello team, hope you all are doing good. So today I'll be talking over the set timeout and set interval. Um, okay, and yeah, so this is something which I used in one of my projects and it was very interesting. And I was looking for an opportunity to share it with the team and luckily we have this 30 minutes Tuesday today. So I'll go through that. First of all, I'll explain some of the features in JavaScripts, and then I'll walk you through the demo as well, and then finally a code walkthrough as well for you to understand. Okay, so first of all, JavaScript gives you a couple of timing events. One we call it a set timeout, the other one is set interval. Both these are timing events, but they have slight difference between them. The set timeout it will execute after a certain time duration. Okay, it will execute only once, and and if you wanted to make it as recurring, right, you might have to call that same function again and then again. Okay, so uh, I have a syntax for that as well. Set timeout, and within brackets, you might have to give the function which you want to execute, and the time duration. It should be in milliseconds. Okay, and the other second timing events is set interval. You just call this once, and it will keep executing it continuously until it stops. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to stop it, but I'll go through that in the next slide. And again, it's similar to the set timeout. The syntax is similar to the set timeout, which in which first will be the function followed by the milliseconds. Okay, so how does this help us in Aura or in LWC? I have experience working on Aura using this events. So I'll use that Aura component, whereas it should be the similar one in LWC as well. Okay, so for Salesforce or for Aura Lightning component, how can we use this? There are a couple of use cases that I can think of. One is to execute something or re-render something on your Salesforce page. Okay, it could be a standard one. I have not tried the standard one, but on a component, I was able to re-render the information on that page. Okay, I'll go through the demo so you'll get to know how what I'm speaking about. The other side, let's say you wanted to execute something from the server at a certain duration. It's something similar to a process builder or time dependent workflow, right, which runs at the back end. But set timeout and the set interval helps you to execute on the client side. Okay, so these are the two use cases which I can think of, and both of these things I have used in my project, which I'll show it during the demo. But that's a high level explanation on the timing events. And moving to the next slide, where I was talking about stopping the execution, right? So once you start executing the set timeout or set interval, and if you don't stop it, it will continue running. Okay, so at some point, maybe during using a if condition or by a manual user user pressing the button, we can execute this clear set timeout. Okay, as you saw in the previous slide, where at the example, right, I'm assigning the set interval against a variable. VAR refers to the JavaScript variable term, and set interval ID is a variable that I have used to get the set interval ID. Okay, and I'll be using that inside the clear timeout so that it will stop running. Okay, so I've provided the reference as well. So once you get access to this document, you can play around and try that out. Okay, and the next after this timing intervals, I did try out something called storage, local storage. This was very key and it is very useful as well for a couple of reasons. One is, let's say you have multiple timers running on your browser. Okay, and you know that Salesforce Lightning gives you with multiple tabs, console tabs, right? And you can have this set timeout running in each of the tabs, right? And it's very hard for you to find which where is the what is the timer ID. Okay, so in that case I did use this local storage. It's very special to JavaScript. I didn't find this in Apex or any other languages which I came across. But this is similar to maps that we use in Apex. Okay, where you have the ID followed by few information which goes against an ID, right? It's similar to that, but this has can be stored on this local storage. Okay, as the syntax states, first thing we might need to do is set. I think in Apex we use add and put and get, right. Similar to that, for local storage we use something called set item, and first will be the string variable against which you wanted to store the set interval ID. Okay, and later you can access that particular ID using get item. Okay, by that way you can access the ID of the set interval. Okay, and yeah, and in the example I've given something different, which is on Aura we have a component dot get v dot record ID. This is what I was saying, like on each of the records you will have set interval running, right? And it's very hard to find. Let's say I put ls local storage, which is short, I called it as ls set interval ID, and you add all the IDs into this. Okay, but later you try to access using get item, then all the IDs will be accessible. And when you try to use window or clear timeout, which is to stop the timer, right? When you try to use that way, all the timers will stop at a time, which is why I tried storing them against the record ID. Okay, and whenever you wanted to stop that, you can use this component dot get record ID. By that way you will get only the set interval ID uh, of the component which is running specific to that particular record. Okay, I hope I'm not confusing you. So that's how it is. And next is visibility chain. So this is again I did use in conjunction with the set interval for a couple of reasons. Set interval or set in timeout has a disadvantage. I think that's how they have built the architecture. On a Chrome, if you are going to execute or on your component, Aura component, which is embedded on your browser, and if the set timeout is running, and if you are working on that browser, uh, the Windows or the Mac OS or the Chrome did understand that you are actively working on it, and it done the set interval or set in timeout does run without any lag. Okay, they understand that you're actively working on it. But let's say you open Chrome and you start the set timeout and you work on an Excel or Outlook, right? At that time, Chrome or the OS understands that you're working on something. So I don't want to waste your resources of your battery or your RAM, right? So they put the set timeout or set interval into sleep mode. Okay, it was a disadvantage for me. Okay, so I was trying to figure out what are the options available for me so that I can mitigate this issue, right? So that's where I came across this visibility change to identify whether the document is active or inactive. Okay, let's say I minimize the Chrome browser. At that time, if I check the document.visibility state, it goes into hidden mode. Okay, at that time either I'll kill the set interval or I can just leave it because it will go into sleep mode, right? But once it becomes active, where the document dot visibility state equals to visible, then I did find that okay, my document become visible. Now I go back to the server, retrieve the information, and then kickstart the timer. So now it will start running exactly without any lag. Okay, so this was useful as well. Okay, and the last topic on along with the set interval, I did use is a desktop notification. So when the set interval is running, and let's say I'm on Chrome browser on a single tab, and I'm working on developer console or in a different tab on the same browser, and if the timer is running, then I did use this desktop notification. Okay, so this triggers similar to how you receive an email. Okay, so when you click on that, the notification will close, but it will open the window where the set interval is running. So this was again useful, but again this also had a issue, because as I was saying earlier, the set interval or set timeout, um, does there is a lag, right? So which is why I had to use process builder and trigger an email at a duration. Okay, so I'm not going to cover that, but I'm just giving you an heads up as well. Okay, so but this is something useful for me to show it on the desktop. Some people use it whenever they are on the Chrome browser. At 20th minute it'll or when the set timeout is running, and after 20th minute they'll be able to see this notification to understand that okay, there is a timer running, I have to take an action or something like that. Okay, so this is one. Yeah, so that's theory. Let me go back into my developer org, and I'll walk you through the demo and then the code as well. Okay. Okay, just give me a minute. Yeah, here you go. Okay, so this is a developer org where I have used cases as an example. On a case, let's say I'm going to work on a case, right? I wanted to track the effort that I have done in resolving a case, right? So in that case, I can use this timer. So there is a component which I've embedded onto this page. So the effort tracker, it's a Aura Lightning component, and so this is static text I have used, but I'll use set interval to keep running. Whenever I click on start, and this will start, and whenever I stop, it will stop. At the back end, I'm trying to add a child record as well, because the moment I click on start, I wanted to capture the start time at when did this effort did start. Okay, and I did use that to retrieve as well, as I was saying, right? Let's say I'm on this window and I'm on a developer console, it will still run, but let's say I move into PowerPoint, which I was displaying, right? And that case, that set timeout get go into sleep mode, which is why I'll be using that start time on this effort record, and then reset this time to where it is supposed to run. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me open the developer tools as well. You can see that, right? So uh, now let me move to this one. Come back here. So you can see that window was active. Window did get active, inactive, or hidden mode at so and so time. Okay, and this is something which will run when it becomes active. Let me increase this. Yeah, so when it becomes active, I'm retrieving it from the database, and if there is any records, then that information will get rendered on this timing. Okay, so I'll click on this. So immediately it created a start date time, and the timer starts running. Okay, so and again this time I'll be using whenever I go into hidden mode and then I come back into active state, I'll refresh this time. Okay, so for this demo it's very short duration, so we cannot do much, but I gave the idea, and then you can try it out if you would like to. Okay, and when I click on stop, and it will stop. Okay, and yeah, this is pretty simple, but it is very interesting. I use JavaScript when I tried it out. Okay, so I'll go through the code. So this is a lightning component, and I have used hash record ID. What else is interesting here? That's it. Not very extensive component, but I have the start and stop buttons, and then the time which you are seeing it on the UI, right? So that is the one which will be stored here. I've defaulted to 00. Okay, and then controller. So I have the do init method, load the record, case record if there is any timers available. I think I did not put any code into this because that's not required, because I'm not going to do an extensive demo on this. But a start button will help you to start the timer. Okay, that's something I've captured in the JavaScript helper. Okay, so whenever I click on start, it executes the JavaScript server-side function, create effort record. Okay, and then I'll start the timer as well. On successful creation of the record, I'll be starting the timer. Okay, so and then whenever I click on stop, it'll update the end date time. Okay, and then I'll be stopping the timer as well. So you can, I'll go through this function, start functions available from, I have used timeout and captured that against waiting time ID. Okay, and this is a function I was saying that whenever you call such function, you might need to call this get callback as well. So this is the same function which I'll be calling again and again. Same thing works with set interval as well, but I did find it set timeout to be a little bit more accurate, which is why I used it. And this is a millisecond which I was telling about. So first it'll take the time date time, and then it'll extract the 00, and then it'll execute once, then for the next second it'll go. It all of this happens within that 1 second, which is very interesting. And at 30th second, for demo purpose, I set it up for a show notification. Let me, I don't know, I don't think I can show the notification because I'm sharing only the Chrome browser, so you might not be able to see the uh, notification. Okay, so I capture that against the waiting time ID and store that as you can see the local storage, right? Set timeout ID. Earlier, I did make that as a static text. I'll something like this. Okay, or yeah, something like this. So what happened is when the component is used across multiple case records, right? And when I try to call this ID and then try killing it, or the clear timeout, you can see the one which I've commented for your uh, understanding, right? So this is how I used it. I tried storing it across. I didn't use a local storage. And then when I tried clearing it out, all the timers started stopping. Okay, so which was weird, which is why I had to search for this local storage and store against, yeah, and store it against the record ID. By that way, when I click on stop, or through any other ways, uh, maybe automatic also you can do that. When you do that, you can access it using the record ID and then clear it out. Okay, so that's on that. And I put that show notification as a separate function or JavaScript function to make it. So there is another interesting thing. You might need to check for the permission whether the user has allowed for notification. So there is a lock icon here, right? So I'm not able to see here. Okay, here if it is allowed, then it will throw the notification. If not, if it is blocked, right, you can have a piece of code which will ask the user to enable the notification. I did not put all those things. I'm just checking if it is granted, then I'll throw the notification. Okay, and this is a listener I was saying about whenever the document or the Chrome window goes inactive or active, right? So the document.add listener will check for the visibility, and it will be available on this document.hidden. Okay, and if it is hidden, then do nothing. But if it is active, then retrieve the information from the server and then display it on the UI. Okay, so this is a retrieval of server information. Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, that's pretty much on this one. Is there anything else I should be covering? Yeah, I think I'm done.
Thanks, Mani. Mani, there was a question from Anu. So the record ID that you have, for which record is it? Is it the case or the effort?
It's for the case record.
Okay, then her question is like, if you're having it for case, what if like there are multiple tabs open with the same case record?
It's a good question. Uh, I think I didn't come across such a use case. The reason being, with the console tab, let's say 100, right? I am on 1000, and I'm on the next tab is 1001. Okay, and as per Anu, if I'm going to click on 100, then it is supposed to open in a new tab, right? But instead, it goes to the tab from which it is accessible. I don't think you can access it um, in a multiple tab within the same document. Okay, but there is another option wherein you can open in a new tab within the Chrome browser. At that time, what I'm trying to do is, uh, I will on the do init method, as I was showing you, right? On the okay, yeah, on the do init method, when the case record is loaded, I'll access the open or the one for which the end day time is not filled in. Okay, and then I will reset the time on the new window as well. Okay, so it will be a fresh timer, though it is running on multiple windows. But let's say you stop on one of the window, and then you come back to this document, right, which is active and inactive mode, right? So when it goes into inactive mode, uh, okay, here, so in the hidden mode, or when it come back to the old window for which the first timer was running, right? And I'll retrieve the information. If it is zero, then I'll reset the timer to zero on that window. By that way, you will see that it is reset to zero, meaning there is no open records running on that record. So that is how I tried managing it. I hope I answered the question right, Anu.
So you are saying if it is multiple records, sorry, same record open in multiple tabs, then the latest one will reset the timer and that time will be taken care of.
Exactly, correct, correct. And when
So
you
it's data
navigate between,
which you are adding, right?
sorry, when you navigate between windows, right, most of the times you will see this listener working to check whether the window is active or inactive, right? When you go back to the old one, it will check for the activeness, and then it will retrieve from the Salesforce database, and it will find, because you have already stopped it on the second tab, right? So it is already closed with the end date time. So when you come back to the first one, it will be already reset to 00. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Mani.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Manoj. How the set timeout function from helper is called recursively, or are we using set interval instead?
So Anuja, I have called that function recursively. The set time, yeah, the function. This is a function, right? So I call that function back into the set timeout again. By that way, and after 1 second, it will go back again. It will execute this, and it will calculate the new time by adding. Here I have set the old time, right? It will be 000000, sorry, 01, right? And then when it goes again, then it will add 1 more second to that. By that way, I made it recursive, Anuj. Yeah.
Uh, Money, yeah, got it. But can't we, like, we can also use set interval function, right? The purpose of set interval is like if you want to call something recursively, like for a frequent amount of time, after frequent amount of time.
Yes, that's possible as well. I tried it with set interval as well, but initially I started with set timeout, which is why I went with that. But set interval, as you said, it's again useful as well. Instead of calling it inside, I can just call it once, and I can assign. It will have only one waiting ID. That's one more advantage. Whereas this one, right, it will keep adding for each regression. The waiting ID will be added again and again. There'll be multiple IDs, but set interval will have only once, and I can store it only once as well. Yeah, Anuj, that's right. You can use set interval as well.
Yeah, thank you, Money.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, team? Okay, Siri has, what are the other use cases apart from calculating effort?
So other things like if you wanted to refresh some data on this tab, I think you can embed a component. That's what I can think of. And then you can execute that. Let's say on the process builder or time different workflow, there is an information updated at the backend after a certain duration, right? Unless and otherwise you refresh the page, it might not be reflected. But that you can refresh it using this Lightning Aura component, where you can execute this server information at a duration using the set interval or set timeout.
So can we use the same thing in LWC as well?
Yes, we can use. I tried it with LWC. It did work, but I didn't go through the code fully to explain it in detail. I was comfortable and I did develop initially on Aura, which is why I thought I'll share it on Aura. But I'm planning to do this in LWC as well and see if everything is working as how it works in Aura. Is my next plan.
Okay, that's very nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
It should work because JavaScript is basically supported, so there shouldn't be an issue. Okay, any other?
Hi, Mani. Umang.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Mani. Umang here.
Umang.
So I had question like if you're aware, like how, so these are basically threads, right? Which would have some life cycles and all. So how these threads are different from Java, or are they working the same way? Or basically when it goes to slip, what are the minimum timeout that we can provide? So for how much time, what is the minimum time that I need to slip that particular thread? So so let's say if so there is a 1 second wait, right? So let's say if I make it to 1 millisecond, what could happen? And what if the processor is not able to process that particular thread after that particular interval? So like how, if you're aware how those things can be managed. So basically the life cycle of that particular event or thread.
Okay, you mean reducing this time?
Yes. So let's say if it is 1 second, but let's say if I have another process which is running on browser and it is taking a lot of time, and so let's say it misses the 1 second count. So how, I mean, does the compiler, or does the processor notify us that it has missed or something like that? Or basically if you're aware of those missed ones, or how the life cycle goes for this threads, like they gets bubbled, what are the scheduling mechanisms and all that. If you so in a Java we have certain mechanism for multi-threadings. So these are again different threads, right, which are getting created and managed. So are they different, or how they are getting managed? So just wanted.
I've not tried it out, but one thing I can understand is that as this runs on the UI part, reducing the time below 1 second, it does still work. Let's say 500 milliseconds, right? I think I've tried with 500 milliseconds. It did work as well. As long as it is on the UI front or the client side, it should work. But if it is something going to be on the back end, I think there might be some discrepancy. I have not tried it out, but I'm definitely sure that because making a call out to the database to do a DML is going to take more time than the 500 milliseconds, right? So I don't think that's a good approach. But as long as it is on the UI part, I think it should be fine enough.
Umang, JavaScript does not support multi-threading like opposed to Java. That is server side. This is client side, right? So there's a big difference between the two architectures. So it's
Yeah,
just a single thread. So I don't think that will be applicable here.
then in that case it's interesting. So how these processes are getting called, and how the state is getting managed and all. So it's okay.
probably under the DOM model, we have to check like how they actually get processed. But what I understood is like because I did check like there's multi-threading supported, but I believe it
Okay.
doesn't. Yeah, but it's not a like for like comparison with Java. But we do have
Okay.
multiple processes getting done, but it's probably like one after the other or so. But I don't think like
Okay.
parallel processing as such.
Yeah, then that would be interesting to know the whole life cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I believe that the compiler will have like an option to like go from top to down, like as it goes through it, and then compile and put the render the output, right? So that's probably what it does.
okay.
There is a question from Irfan, but I don't have an answer for that, Irfan. I'll check that and get back to you. I've not used the locker service, but let me check that and get back to you.
Okay. Any other questions, team? Okay, I guess that was great. Thank you so much, Mani, for the presentation.
Thanks, Prosper. I would like to share the credits if it was helpful for your team. Or so it's not just me who did this work. I had taken help from other colleagues from our company and my friends as well. So thank you so much for your help and for the knowledge that you have shared with me. And thank you.